I call Jami-Lee Ross.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I rise to take a call to comment and to rebut some of the comments being made by New Zealand First, because I believe the views expressed by Tracy Martin are somewhat misguided and very different to the very specific advice that the committee got during its consideration. Mr. Chair, I want to refer members to the departmental report, and I think that Mrs. Martin will probably enjoy reading a number of the clauses in this departmental report, because they do dispel some of the myths that have been spoken about, firstly in submissions and then in this House. Mr. Chair, there's a strong view held by some, and Mrs. Martin expressed it, that the police can simply be called on by the SAS to exercise warrantless surveillance on behalf of the SAS. Well, Mr. Chair, that simply can't happen. In 1956, the SAS was separated from the police. The SAS and the police have very separate roles to play in our country. The police are all about enforcing the law. They're all about ensuring that crimes are detected and that people are put before the courts for those crimes. The SIS's role is very different in that the SIS's role is to ensure that New Zealand's security is taken into consideration, and that New Zealand's security matters, there is detection powers in place so that New Zealand's security can be protected. There's a good section in this departmental report which points out that the NZSIS Act expressly states that it is not a function of the NZSIS to enforce measures for security. NZSIS consequently does not detain people or bring prosecutions. Investing in bringing prosecutions for criminal offences, including terrorism offences, is a function of the police. The very reason why this bill is here is because there are instances where New Zealand's security is at threat, and the NZSIS does not currently have the powers to conduct surveillance in a timely manner to keep New Zealand safe. No, Mrs. Martin, you are incorrect. You are incorrect. Sorry, Mr. Chair. The member is incorrect. The police cannot undertake that power on behalf of the SAS. The police and the SAS have very different roles to play, and that's an important point. Mr. Chair, I also want to refer to the comments that she made about the passport provisions. She is of the view that passport provisions in this bill are insufficient and unnecessary. Mr. Chair, there's also some very good comments in the departmental report which highlight the advice the committee received in the committee. Advice that Mr. Tabato could have passed on if he wanted to. Some are of the view that the passport changes are too lengthy, that there should not be the power to cancel passports for 3 years. Mr. Chair, the comments that we received, and very important comments we received from the DPMC officials, was that passport cancellation for 1 year is inadequate in some cases because individuals continue to remain motivated to travel. They also go on to say that, and this is a very important point, deferring notice of passport cancellations was considered justified in cases where notifying the person concerned could jeopardise the intelligence operation and in some cases increase the threat to public safety. So everything you do with the legislation is about balancing the rights of individuals, with also the need to ensure New Zealand's kept safe, to ensure that New Zealand's threats, which are out there and are very real, that those threats are kept contained. And so if there is a possibility that initiating further action under the existing clauses, the existing sections in the Passport Act, could endanger a security and intelligence operation, could increase the threat to New Zealand, then I do believe that there is justification for the Minister in certain extreme circumstances to cancel a passport for 3 years. I finally just want to point out the changes that were made around the Inspector General, because I don't think that they can just be glossed over. When the bill was first sent to the committee, the Inspector General very much had a role of receiving information once unwarranted surveillance was undertaken. The committee mulled over this quite a lot, and we were very firm in the view that the Inspector General's role should not simply be one where she receives reports when the unwarranted surveillance power is initiated, but in fact she should have the power to investigate, and rather than just her initiating, Mr. Chair,
Jami-Lee Ross.
rather than just the Inspector General initiating investigations on her own behalf, the legislation itself should say that the matter be referred to her for investigation. That's a very important point because, Mr. Chair, simply receiving advice that unwarranted surveillance powers have been used is very different from receiving that advice and being required to investigate. It's important that we give New Zealanders confidence that if these powers have to be used, that there is sufficient monitoring over the top, and that monitoring is by way of the Inspector General. She has to, if this bill goes through, she has to investigate when that power is used. Additionally, there was concern that if the destruction of materials when they are no longer required does not take place, that one, the fine is insufficient, that two, there needs to be additional monitoring around that. The committee also inserted clauses where the Inspector General is required to investigate if any matters are not destructed, and Mr. Chair, if any matters and Mr. Chair, I can't hear what she's going on about. Mr. Chair, the powers around the Inspector General were increased on that matter, and we also increased the fine that's put in place. Mr. Chair, we did consider these matters very seriously. Mr. Chair, I disagree fundamentally with Mr. Tabuto that the bill has not changed. It's very evident if someone goes through this bill that a lot of compromise was discussed here. A lot of changes to the bill have been made. Changes that have gone so far as to get New Zealand's main opposition party coming to the table and saying, yes, these powers are necessary for New Zealand's security situation. And also, Mr. Chair, they are compromises. They're compromises that, Mr. Chair, are designed to give New Zealanders confidence that whilst we look after New Zealand's security, intelligence, information and take those issues seriously, we also ensure there is proper monitoring in place, and that's exactly what the changes here do.
I call Dr. Kennedy Graham.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.